The Buzz with Jess Lujan.
We're back with my in-studio guest, Myra Uggan, who's actually incoming senior at Gallaudet University, Washington, D.C., as well as Heather Zimmerman, who's my translator today. But welcome back. Thank you. Myra, let me ask you of the, there's got to be some challenges. I've got to say that you are probably, you're lucky. You were able to be provided.
I was definitely one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, provided my parents and all that. But there are a lot of probably children out there that were born with maybe not as, maybe with parents with maybe not so much the economic background that you have to be able to succeed and go to a specialized university for the deaf and hard of hearing. So what, from your point of view and wanting and going now to Gallaudet University and seeing the challenges and going through the challenges yourself, because you did have some challenges, what would you suggest? How can we solve this problem? And when you do come back here, what do you envision to start here in Guam?
Well, I think that we need to advise deaf kids on island that if they want to go to Gallaudet University, they can, because it's about their future. People need to have their own agency. Mm-hmm. People need to be prepared, because there'll be challenges when they go to Gallaudet, and they need the support. They need to be able to contact people that they feel comfortable with, so they don't get isolated and alone. So if they go to Gallaudet University, they need to, for my personal experience, I was overwhelmed when I went to the States. I was overwhelmed because of everyone's communicated very fast. Their sign language speed is much faster than our island sign language. We sign a lot slower here and more chill, but they sign like really all business, all fast. So I was really used to having a one-on-one interpreter, but in Gallaudet it's direct communication because everyone's deaf. And I found that to be such a privilege. It was so nice to be able to be in class with all my deaf peers and have such high expectations. It was great. I had to be aggressive and think positive and be optimistic in class and really learn. And I think if people did that, then they would succeed as well. But it's important to be responsible and not serious and not waste your money and just party away your education.
Now I asked you during the break the percentage of deaf and hard of hearing students at least within the public school system, but we also know that we have, of course, our neighboring islands that have an access to our education that come here. I don't know what that percentage is coming here, but we are kind of the hub of education, basically, not just here in Guam, but also maybe for our brother and sister islands that come here. What do you suggest that we do? Should we have some kind of a school, or maybe even a charter school or something like that would cater to the deaf and hard of hearing?
I think that would be a wonderful idea, because if we could set up a deaf institute, a charter school or a deaf institute, for all the different islands in Micronesia, the FSM students, the students in the Northern Marianas, everyone to come over here in a central location and have deaf teachers that could provide them with the capital and the capacity that they need so that they can be all that they can be. Because there are so many deaf kids that are isolated, but they don't have anyone to look up to that is deaf themselves. I'm not sure what the school system looks like in those islands, but if they could all come here to a central island, they would be open-minded. They would have their horizons broadened so that they can go back to their own islands and set up something that was like what we modeled.
Now let me ask you this. How important is it to have, say, teacher, like say a school, you start a school or institution, that the teacher or teachers there also sign, as opposed to just translators? Because sometimes things are lost in translation. I mean, it's lost even in verbal translation. How much is lost in sign translation if the teacher herself is trying to get a point across directly to you, but through a second person? So how important is it, again, to have that teacher or teachers be very versed in sign?
So I would prefer hiring deaf staff who could sign. I think that is the most important thing because it provides direct communication and it saves time. And also, if you have an interpreter, it's great for things like field trips or going out. That's great to hire an interpreter for. That's a good fit. But hiring a deaf teacher who's skilled in ASL and can communicate well and is skilled in whatever that subject is much better. And you know, they have to have a qualified, the qualifications and the degrees. But that deaf person is key.
Because when you're talking theories, right? You're talking theories and all that, or ideology and things like that, right? I mean, it's hard to give it to somebody and then they're really trying to, and them trying to get the point across what's really in the heart, as opposed to, I'm going to sum it up, right? A summary of something. And you don't want something ideology or a theory that's summarized.
Exactly, exactly. And it's complicated. I'm so happy to have an interpreter, that can like help translate things for me. I mean, it's a challenging job. So hats off to the interpreters. It's a hard job, but it's also valuable to have direct communication.
My daughter teaches deaf and hard of hearing, and she was at charter school for the deaf and hard of hearing as well. And I had an opportunity to spend
That's awesome.
Spend one full day with her. And I was drooling at the technology that was provided to the school and for the students that were going there. Because it wasn't just limited to deaf and hard of hearing. They integrated the school. Morning sessions were, if they were verbal, they would verbalize. But the afternoon sessions were definitely all signing. And so, again, when I looked at what they had versus, again, what we have here, I'm like, really? And for the number of students and for millions of dollars. And even then, they were complaining because they were underfunded.
Yeah, it's so true, but it's really important. It really depends on the individual deaf person. If they're hard of hearing, if they're deaf, if they want to talk, if they want to have a hearing aid or a cochlear implant, it's their choice. It's that individual's choice of what they want to do in terms of communication and how they want to interact with the world. I honestly prefer both, a dual method, if you will.
Now,
like for my experience. I grew up signing, but I also had oral classes where I learned to speak. And in 5th grade, I decided it wasn't benefiting me anymore because my hearing loss is so profound that it didn't benefit me even with the hearing aids. For some people, it does benefit them because they have a lesser hearing loss, but for me, it wasn't beneficial at all. And I think it's really up to the individual to choose. I don't think other people should choose for someone.
So are your parents versed also in signing? Do you have brothers and sisters that they sign just as well as you do? I mean, yeah.
Well, not really as well as me, but my family does know sign. They're not as proficient. They sign a lot slower, but they really try hard. And we mix it with some home signs and some ASL. So we do. It's called code switching. It's like I talk differently with my family and my friends and my college professors. Sure.
I mean, there's language that only your family can understand.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now let's talk, because you guys have a camp as well. You're going to the other islands to have some camps.
Yes. We are going to Tinian next week. We're going to Tinian, and we're going to set up a deaf camp there. It'll be the first ever in history, and I'm really excited to be a part of that historical event, to see who the students are, to meet them, to teach them, to inspire them hopefully, and have a great time. I hope it's going to be a fun camp.
How many students are you looking at?
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I think it'll be a smaller number than we had on Guam. Some kids from Saipan are coming over. I'm assuming less than 15. It could be 10 to 15 students. Okay,
great. I tell you what, we got to pay some bills again. When we come back, I want you to talk to, again, the deaf and hard of hearing community out there, the challenges, but also, the great horizons that is coming. We'll be right back. Okay?
Okay.